So welcome to Joel Green Uncut. And I've got a special friend of mine who's joined me today to share his story and, his story so far. I think it's the best way to describe it. We've got Luke Sugar Free Byrne. It's all in the name. How you doing, Luke?
All good, Joel. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, mate. It's lovely to have you on, and you're looking well. It's good to
Thank
see
you.
you.
Yeah, it's good to be on.
Rosy cheeked. Obviously, got the sun over there.
Yeah, it's really sunny, so I'm guaranteed to get burnt,
Along with every other Irishman.
Absolutely.
Bless you, mate. Well, a lot of people know you for obviously your boxing. You've kind of that's the what's kind of come along for you, isn't it? You know that's been your sort of symbol of who you are for the last quite a few years now. But obviously, prior to that, where how were things with you? Was it always boxing the sort of the focal point for you?
Yeah, I mean, like as a kid, it was my obsession to do boxing, but my parents just wanted to keep me away from it as being parents, and then for school as well. They want me just to concentrate on my studies because I was fairly bright as a kid, and they just wanted me to make sure I had my potential there as well. So it was just kind of watching boxing all the time, wanting to do boxing, and then I just came to an age then when I was 16, and they couldn't stop me,
So when did you find out when obviously the big D came along? When did you find out you were diabetic? I'll get the big D right here before anyone. We won't talk about that.
Those are
That's for
those are that's
that's
two
we're watershed.
two totally different ages. But yeah, I was 14 when I was diagnosed with diabetes. So half my life now. I'm 28. So I've lived longer with it than I lived without it now, officially. Um, yeah, so it was an awkward age anyways, you're going through a lot, 13, 14 years old. So that was a big change to my life, and I didn't even know what it was when I got diagnosed with it. I think there still is, but there's a lot less ignorance towards it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thanks to social media, TikTok, Instagram, everything like that. There's a lot more pages, a lot more, I suppose, people speaking out about it like I do, and trying to get it noticed and educate people. That's all it is an education, and I didn't have that. Um, so like when I was having the symptoms for months and months, and my mum was eventually like, "I think you could be diabetic. We're gonna book you in to see your GP and get you tested." I didn't have a clue what it was, and off I go into the doctors, and he's like, "Yeah, you're definitely diabetic. Your blood sugars are sky high, your ketones are sky high, and you're going to have to go into hospital." And it was just a roller coaster from there,
So has anyone else in the family, mum or dad, got diabetes?
No,
No,
the closest
nothing.
would be my dad's uncle, but that's not really too close. So no one close to home, none of my friends, none of my extended family that I knew. So it was all brand new to me. I was the first person I knew that had it, that I knew had it, you know. So it was yeah, it was a learning curve for sure. And it always is a learning curve. Every day is different.
And this is the thing at such a difficult time in life as well. You know, you're growing
Yeah,
constantly in different
yeah,
ways. Your hormones, you're trying to figure out who you are. You've got identity crisis in those teenage years. Is you're
absolutely.
trying to find your path, and then you get hit by something so hard as diabetes. And I know you do your best to manage it. You 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 have to because of your
Oh yeah,
training, because of
absolutely.
it's even harder to be
Mm.
perfectly honest, isn't it? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm not perfect. I don't think anybody is, and we all have our good days and bad days. And I could certainly look after myself a lot better than I am. But at the end of the
what
day,
do you
too,
mean
you
by
got to
that,
be.
Luke? What do you mean by that?
You could
Dietary wise?
dietary wise, everything, sleep wise. Making sure you're sleeping right, you're eating right, you're resting when you need to, not to be as, I suppose, laid back and lackadaisy about it. But at the same time too, like you need to have a life. And if you lived by the restrictions of it and lived by the book, so to speak, you wouldn't really have a life. So you have to, there is a balance you have to strike. And like even 14 years later, I'm working on that, you know, working on finding that balance. Now look, there's other things that's gone on in my life where my head hasn't been spot on, so to speak. So that's been an effect on it too. You know, because a lot of people don't know, but your emotions affect your diabetes, like how you feel, your mood, everything can affect it. So you've got to be really careful. And you know, looking after yourself, whether you've got an illness or not, is foremost. And a lot of people don't. And you know, with diabetes, it's just an extra few things you have to think about every day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's it. It's just another extra tread of being careful, isn't it? You know,
Mm,
because we should be looking after our bodies anyway, shouldn't we? We should be, you
exactly.
know, a bit more focused on what we're doing, what we're eating, what, you know, day to day life, and, you
Yeah.
know, sleeping pattern. I know it's not it's a roller coaster for people in different ways. There's some people that do have sleeping issues. There's people that have got other, you know, hereditary things. There's people
Hmm.
that have got other things that also, you know, can impact on diabetes, or diabetes can come through different avenues as well, can't it? Because obviously, how did it did they say how it sort of came about for you,
Yeah, like
or?
I had, well, it's just it's an autoimmune disease. So basically your the cells in your pancreas just start shutting down, and it attacks itself, so to speak. And slowly but surely, I think they're called the beta cells in your pancreas stop working, and your pancreas just stops producing insulin then, and then your blood sugars just don't be regulated, and they go up and up and up until you have symptoms and are ill. Now I was lucky. I had the classic symptoms, but I didn't have I wasn't ill, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't throwing up. I wasn't feeling rough. I
Yeah,
was tired, very tired, and just thirsty all the time. There was nothing I could do to quench my thirst. And I'd lost a bit of weight as well, which we just thought I was growing, but it happened just to be that I lost a lot of weight without trying, without changing anything. But the biggest tell, I was diagnosed on the 6th of January, and the biggest tell was Christmas, the couple of weeks prior. My aunt had brought in a big 3 liter bottle, you know, of the red lemonade,
right.
and a three liters now. And
We're not talking
sh
standard bottle here, people.
no, and
This is nan size.
she'd gone into the kitchen for a couple of minutes, and I had the whole thing gone, all 3 liters of it gone,
3 liters.
gone, and I was still thirsty. And then my aunt was like, "What is wrong with you? Like that's not right." And then obviously it's not right, and I was like, "Just was thirsty, sorry."
I love how
And
nan's as blunt as it comes. You're not right.
and so that was a big thing where I realized, like, this isn't normal. And I just thought, because it was happening gradually for months, so I was kind of getting used to living like this, if you know what I mean. I was just like, oh yeah, I'm just thirsty all the time. That's just how I am. Like I didn't think, oh, something's badly wrong with me here. But again, it's the
But,
ignorance of it. You're
but you wouldn't know at 14, would you?
no,
Let's be honest. You're not going to think about diabetes, are you? You're just going to
literally
think, I've just got to keep feeding. You
drinking.
know,
Yeah,
yeah, the need I've
but
got basically.
yeah, yeah. But then obviously, and my parents were hearing me getting up 7 or 8 times in the night to go to the toilet because you're just drinking and it's coming out of you straight away. So just the classic signs really. And yeah, that was it. And took me to the doctors then on the 6th of January, and the rest is history.
So the fact that you've gone through this difficult time, and then you go into boxing, which is probably the hardest training out there. Well, it is the hardest training. We know it's
It's
the
tough, yeah.
toughest training out there, and then to try and regulate your diabetes
Mm.
and fit it in with your training. Obviously, it can be done. You've done it long enough,
Yeah.
and I think you've very much proved to a lot of people. And there's a lot of doubters that go, "You got diabetes, you can't do it. You got
Yeah, yeah.
diabetes, you can't do that, you can't eat that, you can't drink that." You probably had that
Absolutely.
the whole time since the age of 14. So this is just another hurdle in your life that
Yeah,
you
and look,
almost think, I've just got to navigate my way.
exactly, you know, and I try to lead as normal a life as possible. You know, I don't let it affect me. Well, I try not to let it affect me. You know, obviously there are days where you're like, oh God, I wish I didn't have to put up with this, but it's the way it is. But with boxing, yeah, look, that was always my passion from being as long as I can remember. You know, like I think I was born loving boxing. You know, watching it, wanting to do it. You know, like dad, like obviously he was a very good boxer, boxed at a high level, coached at a high level. So he did pads and stuff with me when I was a kid. So I knew how to throw a punch and I knew how to move and everything, and I just loved it. Couldn't get enough of it. You know, I was a kid and I'm still at 28 years old, the person who's just shadowboxing in public for no reason. You know, just love it, just can't get out of my mind. And when I got the diabetes, it was kind of one of those things. I was like, oh, what can't I do? You know, it wasn't what can I do, it was what can't I do? And boxing seemed to be one of them because at the time there was never a diabetic boxer.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know, there's a few in the world now, two professionals, Rashid Johnson and Muhammad Ali, in America and England respectively. And then there's me, and then there's a girl in London, Lucy. She's an Irish woman and she's a type 1 diabetic as well. And there's a young fella who actually, it was amazing. One of the nicest things I think that's ever happened to me in my life. Messaged me a few months ago on Instagram, said he'd seen my story and he was inspired to start boxing. And he took up boxing training and had his first bout there in March. So that was, I had a lump in my throat when he messaged me to say that I'd inspired him to start boxing. You know,
The thing
so
is, you
it
are
just
though. You might only be 28, but I think it's the fact that you have taken that plunge, as it were. You have taken the risk
yeah,
because it
yeah.
is a
Look,
risk as
like
well. At the same time,
it
but at
is,
the
it
same
is.
time, it's a calculated one. It's not
Yeah, but
just
look,
jumping into something silly, is it?
anything's a risk. Do you know, getting
Yeah,
into your
yeah,
car every day is a risk. Um, like I boxing is what I took to. Like boxing was my talent, and like I wasn't a great footballer. I loved playing football outside with my friends when I was young, but I was never that great at it. I played tennis. I was all right at it. Did other sports, was okay at them, but like boxing, I took to straight away. And you know, you can put it down to genetics. You can put it down to, you know, it's in the family. Dad did it. My granddad did it. His dad did it. You know, so you could say, oh yeah, it's in the blood. But like, it's the only thing I took to, and it's the only thing I love.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I was going to do whatever I could to get to do it. And you know, my parents respected that when, you know, it wasn't a phase of being a kid and wanting to be like my dad. It was, I want to do this sport. I really want to give this a go and see what it's all about and see what I can do. And you know, I got to 16 and they let me join the local boxing gym. And dad started coaching in that boxing gym then. And then I got my card. You know, my dad fought very hard for me to get the card with the Boxing Association. And then, you know, full time training was on. And I had a lot of plates to spin at the time because I was starting college. Um, I was going into uni, then, you know, trying to get fights, trying to concentrate on my studies, have a nightlife. You know, it was all happening, you know, in first year university as it does. So, and then you have the diabetes on top of that to look after. But it's great because, you know, all my friends, you know, like I love going out, I love a party, but I'd never partake in drinking or drugs or anything like that. I don't have any interest in them, but also even if I did have an interest, it wouldn't be the best thing for my diabetes anyways.
Well, this, yeah,
And, you know, none of my friends whatever pressure or think, oh no, you're dry for not doing that. You know, it's just they know how I am. And, you know, I've great support of all my friends and family, which is lovely as well. You know, they all look out for me.
yeah, yeah. No, definitely. And as I was saying like earlier, when I was saying like about risk, it's more in the sense of having going for something, but doing it the right way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
so easy to jump into something, and
Hmm.
not to say you have, because I know you haven't. You've put everything together. You've got the support. You work through it.
Yeah.
But it's those people that. if they do want to go into boxing and they are diabetic, it's look at the advice, look at what's out there, look
Yeah,
for the
and
support, and
it's
speak
so
to Luke as
much.
well.
It's
Luke,
yeah. Look,
yeah,
I'd always give anyone advice. Now look, it's anecdotal advice. It's my advice. It's not medical
yeah.
advice. I'm not a doctor. Like, I'm a qualified sports scientist. I can give qualified advice in that, but I'm not a doctor to give medical
But I
advice.
think
But
it's important because you've lived it, haven't
I've
you?
lived it
That's
exactly. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Exactly. So
that can speak
I can
volume
give.
more.
I I I think so, but the experts would say
Yeah,
otherwise. But yeah, like, with that, with anything, you just have to look after yourself. Like, even
yeah,
now, I'm back training now. I'll be back in the ring in a few months, and I'm cutting a lot of weight at the moment, and I have to adjust my insulin levels while I'm losing fat, because the less fat you have, the less insulin you need. So I have to be very careful with my ratios, losing weight, not giving myself a low blood sugar and having to correct it then by eating sugary foods or drinking sugary drinks.
yeah. This is it.
So
Yeah,
it's a balancing act, And at the moment this week I've had a couple of low blood sugars. So it's just trial and error, getting your insulin ratios right, which is just giving yourself the right dose, because your doses change all the time, depending on what you eat, how much you eat with carbohydrates. For me, I like to cut out carbohydrates as much as possible when I'm cutting weight, as everyone knows it is easier to lose weight when you do that. Just from a calorie standpoint, you're not going to eat as much calories when you're cutting out a whole food category. Um, so yeah, like, that's a balancing act, and it's trial and error, just like everything. Like, what
yeah,
works for me will not work for you. What works for you won't work for me necessarily. So it's just about knowing your own body. And the other diabetic boxers that I mentioned, they probably have different ways to me.
hmm
But also, my struggle, I suppose, has always not even been diabetes as such. It's been food being a crutch, you know. And when bad things have happened to me over the years, and I've had a tough few years, stuff going on in the family. One of my best friends passing away in an accident a few years ago. COVID, even, lockdown, like, wasn't fantastic for me, anyways. Um, and I just used food as a crutch, and ended up putting on a lot of the weight that I lost, and being back, I suppose, to square one. And then, because of my desperation to get back in the ring, I had three fights at probably 5, 6 stone heavier than I should be fighting.
I, I do. I do remember. I remember
You
because
know,
I met you during lockdown.
yeah,
So I kind of met you probably at your lowest.
I was
You know,
very fit then. I was very fit. Yeah,
in the sense of it was almost like where you were kind of mentally, it was more of a challenge, wasn't it, during COVID?
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Look, it was tough. And what was annoying was, just before lockdown. So lockdown happened in March. I was due to have my first fight back from like, after I'd finished college, uni. I was to have my first fight back in that April, and I'd worked so hard, got myself so fit. I was super fit, and I lost 5 stone in 4 months. I got myself in some nick for this fight, and then lockdown happened. It was cancelled, and my head went. My head just
yeah,
went. I was like, "Fuck this! What was I training for? It's all for nothing." And then in Ireland, it was like, "Oh, sure, it's only 2 weeks. It'll be fine." So then I had a bit of hope, and then they announced the big lockdowns, like 3, 4 months. So what did I do? I sat on the couch and ate bad food, you know, and piled weight on. And then, I tried to get it off, and then other stuff had happened. And then I was coping with that by eating, and it was just a negative thing after negative thing. And, you know, um, and then, like I say, I rushed back into the ring, because I said, I need to get back fighting. It's been 7 years. I need to get back in the ring, you know. And because I was basically, after 7 years, you might as well be starting again, you
well,
know.
this is it. Yeah, it's like someone's just hit a massive reset button, isn't it? Basically.
I might as well not have boxed before after 7 years out. And I had that fight in Brentwood. I
Yeah,
thought I know. Look, you know what I thought about it. I didn't get the decision. Look, I gave my best, but I was 122 kilos. Do you know what I mean? That's so heavy, like nearly 20 stone. Like my best weight is probably about 12 and a half stone.
That
You
that's
know,
that's that's a big boy, Luke. That's,
I tell
I'm
you,
not
I
gonna
know,
lie.
I know. That's heavier than Tyson Fury. You know what I mean? Like that's scary. So I went
That is
out and
scary.
I went out and
And you think he's 6'9", mate? Do you know
yeah,
what I
yeah, I
mean?
know. Me barely scraping 6 foot on a good day. Um, so that was that, and I got back in, and don't get me wrong, I trained hard, but just the diet wasn't there, because there was stuff going on up here,
Yeah, yeah,
and I suppose I was using boxing nearly as a distraction from what was going on in my life, because getting in a ring in front of a crowd, that's where I'm at home, that's the fun part for me. So for those few rounds, I was enjoying myself. It might not look like it because I was very tired, and I had another big man coming at me throwing punches, but that was freedom to me. And then after that fight, then I says never again will I box a heavyweight. So what did I do last year? I boxed twice a heavyweight. But again, it was just you know trying to sort out my head, and I wasn't successful in that. But I got an opportunity to have another fight, and I says, right, we'll keep the ball rolling, and I took it, and I thought I'd win it, and that was last August, and I thought that fight was very tight. Thought it could have went either way. Thought it was a draw myself, but it was what it was. And then had a rematch then, so I had to stick around a heavyweight again because the rematch. I was so determined to get that, to right that wrong. That was a
Are
wrong
we
in my head.
talking? Are we talking cornerstone boxing here?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We are, aren't we?
So I wanted that rematch so badly,
Yeah,
after being called for, because I was willing to go my separate way and start dieting and lose the weight, and then the rematch was called on, and I was like, right, you know me, I'm not going to turn down that kind of a challenge. So I was like, right, we'll stick around the heavyweight, and again, stuff was going on at home. Uh, Stuff was going on, and I was training, but I wasn't dieting right still. Do you know what I mean? Like by right, I should have been a few stone lighter going into that ring, but I wasn't, and that's my own fault. I've no one to blame, no excuses. And went into the ring, and look, again, me and you have spoken privately about that fight. As far as I'm concerned, that he won fair and square. Credit to him. No excuses for that. He was the better man on the night, and that's all there is to it. And I wish him all the best of luck in the rest of his career. Um, but for me, I know I could have gave a lot better, and I could have gave a lot better, and so does all my friends and family. And it's about now not redemption, but it's about just showing people what I actually can do, and being dedicated for a few months, get just not worrying about what's going on in my own head. Like I seen videos of people being like, do it tired, do it scared, just do it. Do you know? And it's true. Like if you wait for motivation or wait to feel good, waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning for a run, you're never going to do a run because
yeah,
you don't
yeah.
want to.
Because it ain't gonna happen.
So
It never happened for me, mate. I tell you.
no. So if you're waiting for that, it'll never get done. And that's a valuable lesson I've learned over the last couple of years. And I won't get into a ring out of shape ever again, because I don't want to disrespect my dad, who put a lot of work into me and teaching me the art of boxing, and getting in and not being physically capable of doing what I can do.
Yeah,
So I don't want to I don't think I did make a show of myself. um, I got in. I boxed 4 rounds there twice last year, and didn't didn't show what I could really do, but I didn't disgrace myself either.
no, not at
But
all.
but but for me, as a man and as someone who's proud, I want to be able to show what I can do. Because I talk about it enough. So I have to put my money where my mouth is. And that's what this year is about: just getting fit, getting back in the ring. I'll be back in the ring. It's not announced yet, but I'll be back in the 30th of August. Near cruiserweight. not quite a cruiserweight, but near it. We'll say more bridger weight, but it's good not to crash the weight, anyways. Because one thing I was proud of in all the heavyweight fights I've had was my chin, and I don't want to drop the weight too quick because the chin is the first thing to go when you're dropping weight like that.
Mhm.
So making a quick pit stop there and then carrying on the momentum. Win, lose or draw. Obviously, I'm going in there to win, but win, lose or draw, just carry on. Keep going, keep training, keep losing weight, and by the end of this year, I'll have a few wins under my belt and be back in good shape. And hopefully be in as good a shape mentally too, because being fit, like sound body, sound mind.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
I'm a big believer in that.
yeah. I remember someone saying to me, I think it was Ash actually. He turned around to me and he said, "The days you really don't feel like doing it, do it.
Yeah,
They are the days. If you
they
can do it
count
on the bad days, then the good days are easy. It's it, it,
100%.
it's getting through those bad days and those bad times because
Yeah,
they are the days actually where you can progress. You go up a level because
yeah,
you are pushing yourself through that point of where
yeah.
you don't want
Like
to do it.
it's discipline versus motivation, isn't it?
Yeah,
And like one thing, like when I was in university, like all my classmates and friends, they used to hate me because I'd be a procrastinator to the like I mean to the extreme. Like if I had like I do not condone this behavior for anybody. I'm just telling you what I did.
you're a
Um
stubborn git most of the time, Luke.
yeah, look, don't do as I do, but like say if I had an exam, a 9 a.m. exam, I wouldn't start studying till 4 o'clock that morning. Like that's how bad of a procrastinator I was. I'd need that pressure to get me going.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I've really had to work hard to get out of that. Because like I got my degree. I was successful in uni, but like I should have worked a lot harder than I did, and I wish
Well,
I would
all I
have
will say
built
is, as we're actually coming up to that exam time of year for the kids
exactly,
who may
exactly.
watch this
Study
video,
study
study
hard. Yeah,
and at the
study
right
hard.
time.
Do a bit every day. Don't leave it all to the last minute.
Don't do it at half
Um
4 in the morning.
no,
Do it at half 4 in the
e-
afternoon.
exactly. But no,
Also,
like,
do what works for you because everyone's different. Like,
well, yeah.
if that
Look,
works
look.
for
It
you,
did. It did work for me, but I think I would have built better habits if I would have worked a bit harder in college. Like doing that procrastination. I've taken that procrastination attitude into my last 3 training camps. And that's not a good thing.
yeah, yeah,
Because a training camp is about progressing each week. Whereas I'm like, I'll do this, I'll do that, and then the last 2 weeks I'm gonna go fucking hard and I'm gonna be fucking great, So it's a work ethic that you build in those formative years, so I think it's really important to have that and try not to be a procrastinator because you can procrastinate anything in life. You can procrastinate doing the dishes, you can procrastinate driving to work, you can leave it to the last minute before you go, you can procrastinate going to sleep. Like there's
yeah, yeah.
times I'd stay up because I'm like, oh God, I've work tomorrow. I don't want tomorrow to come yet. So I just stay up later. And it's a bad thing to do,
And the next
but it's
minute, it is that day.
literally, and you're absolutely wrecked because you stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning for no reason. So, these are habits that I'm trying to break.
Yeah,
And, it's not just my boxing, it's everything in life, um, your quality of life, everything you do comes down to your attitude and your mindset. So I'm just trying to build those positive building blocks
yeah.
now, whereas I should have been doing it 10 years ago.
But
But you live and you learn.
life's a learning curve. Life is a
A hundred
learning curve.
percent,
We're learning
a
all the
hundred
time.
percent.
We
And
never stop learning.
like with COVID even, we lost like 3 years, 4 years. Like if you were to ask me like spontaneously what age are you, I'd be like, oh, 23, 24. Like I don't feel like a 28-year-old, like, do you know what I mean? Um, and I think even with the boxing, like I look at myself at 28, but
Yeah.
I'm a very young 28 when in regards to the sport of boxing because I've no miles on the clock.
Well,
The
this is
only
it.
the
Yeah.
only the only miles on the clock is the weight loss and the weight gain. It's not like I've had hard 10 rounders and I've cognitively gone down and I've had injuries and stuff like that. It's not that at all. So I consider myself still very fresh as in regards to an athlete, which is great. Do you know? Because you look at all the people now in sports, especially boxing,
Yeah.
they're doing it later and later into life. Like look at Artur Beterbiev, arguably one of the best fighters on the planet, 38
Yeah.
years old.
Scary, isn't it?
Alexander Usyk, 37, 38 maybe actually now. So, it's a very doable thing to get fit, stay fit, and stay healthy later in life and still be able to compete at a high level. So that's what I plan on doing because I'm not getting any younger. So you just have to take these lessons and go with it. And like even outside of boxing, like I say, like in life, like putting things off, delaying things, it's not a good thing to do because
No.
time passes you by so quick.
Yeah.
And
100%.
that was a huge regret and something that I'd still struggle with a bit. Like when my friend passed away, like we'd said for months before it, like I hadn't seen her for a few months, and we were always like, "Oh, we'll grab a coffee, we'll meet up, we'll do this, we'll do that. I'll come over to your house, you can come over to mine." And with one thing and another, we just didn't.
Yeah.
And then she's dead. Do you know? And you're like, I can't ever do that again. Like I can't get that time back. So it's important not to put things off, in all aspects of life because they'll just pass you by.
Yeah. Life doesn't pause,
No.
and I think the harder thing is as you get older, you see more of it, and I think that's
Yeah.
the difficult thing. I as you know, I lost my friend, a
Hmm.
year ago now,
Yeah.
and it's you just think of all the times you didn't see them, as opposed to
Literally.
the times you did see them,
Literally.
and it hurts. It
It
really
does.
does
It
hurt.
does.
But and yet, I try to think of the good times. Yet actually, I really struggle with the times where I gone. "Oh, do you know what? I should have gone round then. I should have gone
Yeah,
round
and
then."
it's
And,
it's
and
such a funny thing that we do. Like, I mean, like my granddad passed away when I was just before I was 16. And he was my best friend, one of the closest people ever to me. And like I live in his house now, like, and he like that really messed with me for a long time. And like even that negative attitude, like that even came in like he died in 2012. And like even a few years ago, 2018, when I was graduating from uni, my mum was there, my dad was there, my girlfriend was there, my brother was there, my nana was there. And I wasn't thinking of them. I was thinking of who wasn't there.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? And
I
it's
think
it's
I
such
think we
a
naturally go to it. I think we
yeah, because I
we
was
we
like,
we
but it
always say, because what do we say? We always go, like I said to you, when you told me about your friend, and I said, but she'd be so proud of you now. You don't talk about the people that are here now. You
no,
almost
that's the
talk
that's the
about the
problem.
people that are looking over you.
Yeah, and like I've
What
been
would they
trying
think of
to
me?
yeah, like
And
I've been trying to work on that because you need to appreciate the people that are around you and are proud of you and that you're proud of them and you
yeah,
know
be in the
it's
present.
it's yeah, absolutely, but it's hard to do that. And you'd have days where or you do something. Like, don't get me wrong now, I wouldn't, like, say when I'm fighting, I look in the crowd and see my loved ones, and that it means the world to me.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
means the absolute world to me that I can't explain how much I appreciate the people that come and support me. You know, it's an amazing feeling, and I absolutely appreciate those moments. But there's times where you're like, oh, I wish that person was sat there or whatever. But it's a bad attitude to have because if you think about what you don't have, you'll never ever be happy with anything. So you
Well,
have
they
to
say,
appreciate
don't
what you
they?
do have.
They say, don't look back. Look in the direction you're heading.
Yeah, but even
Because
it's I suppose it's kind of like the comparison is the thief of joy. If you look at what the next man has and you think, oh, I wish I had that, you don't think what you have. And there'll be someone out there who's jealous of you, who wishes they had
yeah,
what you have,
yeah,
you know.
100%, mate. Yeah.
So like that's just the way life is, and you just have to have a positive attitude and you learn a lot through your losses, and whether it's losses in life, losses in sport, losses of people, you learn a lot through them. And you just have to build yourself up from it. But I struggled to do that the last few years, and I had a bad attitude towards myself, towards food, especially, I could have went months without having a home cooked meal, just buying shit, and it's expensive too. Like, you don't save money
Yeah,
that way,
yeah,
I've been trying to get better at that, trying to get better with me food, and it'll all have a knock-on effect in the long run. My 30s will be a lot better than my 20s, and I know that for a fact. And I'm looking forward to this year creating that positive future for myself. That's what I'm seeing this year as, it's like, ground zero for a successful next decade.
yeah. This is it. It's building, isn't it? It's building for the next phase.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
we go through
You know,
seasons in life, don't we? And this is going to be the next season for you. And
yeah, that's the
talking
way
of
I look
the
at it.
talking of the next season, though, all I want to say to you is, when are we going to see Luke Sugar Free turning pro? Because we've discussed this for quite a long time now, and I
Hmm.
know, you know, you say, you're still young, but in your back of your mind, you still think, I'm still not getting any younger. But
Yeah.
at the same time, you almost think, when is that? When is the time? I know you want to get more fights under your belt. You want to have a good run, feeling fit, feeling focused,
Yeah.
feeling, you're heading in the right direction. But obviously, that is the goal. Even if you had one, like I remember speaking to Jordan, of,
Cornerstone.
Cornerstone Boxing. Big shout out to Jordan. He's a lovely lad.
Yeah.
Um,
Fantastic fella.
he said, all I ever want to do is just have one pro fight to say I had a pro fight.
Mm.
It's kind of, that's where he's at. Um, when do you think, or are you
My
just quite happy focusing on what you're doing at the moment?
See, I think it's a two-parter. I think it's both at the same time. Like, if I focus on what I'm doing now and do it right, I'll have a successful pro career. If I look at, oh, I'm going to turn pro next June
Yeah,
and don't do all the right things before next June, if I procrastinated like I've been doing the last few years or my whole life, I'll get in the ring and get absolutely battered and probably
yeah,
never have a second pro fight. So if I turn pro, or when I turn pro, I should say, I'm not doing it to have one fight just to say I could do it. I don't want to be like to my grandkids, oh, I had a pro fight once. I want to say I won this and I won that, and I put my all into this. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to go all in.
yeah, yeah,
So I'd rather go all in and fail than half-arse it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
So I'm gonna put me all into it, and I think the answer of when is more. It's not about time; it's about where I'm at. So, like, if I get, I don't know, let's just say for argument's sake, I win 10 in a row now, all by knockout, and I feel fantastic and everything. I would still be thinking to myself, right, I'm gonna go over to America now, go through a few pro gyms, spar some tough lads, see how I go, and be like, look, yeah, I'm ready. Do you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, it's got to be when it's right for you, isn't it?
exactly. Look,
Yeah.
I'd love to say to you it'll be this time next year. And if that was the case, fantastic. But if it was this time 2 years, if me in 2 years is better than me in a year,
Well,
then
it's a
it's
no-brainer, isn't it?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And if I'm just improving, 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 I don't want to peak too soon. And like when I do turn pro, hopefully boxing will be big in Ireland again. There's been a few good pro shows in the north
yeah,
and in the south recently. Um, I think over the next couple of years as well, like again, like my struggle, like I've said, is consistency. So like I'd get on TikTok and post for a week and then I wouldn't post for 6 months. Do you know? So I want to get consistent with my social media, get consistent with my training, build a bigger following. Like I know there's a lot of people who know me. Um, Even I was commentating on a show. I had my first ever commentary gig in Dublin
yeah, yeah,
a few weeks ago, and there was actually a couple of people who knew me from social media from my other fights, and that was amazing. And then, even when I boxed in Brentwood a couple of years ago, there was a couple of people that recognized me as well. And I was thinking, how? Like that is mad. But social media, Joel Green, but it's you
I
have
take
to.
no credit whatsoever.
No, but when you plug yourself correctly, people take notice, and it doesn't take a lot to go viral these days. It doesn't take a
Yeah,
lot to get a big following these days. And I think if I could promote myself properly and be a good ticket seller, then there's no reason why I couldn't, have a
this
decent
is
pro
it.
career. Because
This is it. Yeah.
if you go in as a journeyman, you're limiting yourself there. So you need to be able to sell tickets. You need to be able to put bums on seats, and you need to be able to fight. I know I can fight, and I've had people like travel over to London, to Brentwood to watch me. Travel up to Belfast twice. When I'm fighting, the fight's going to be in Dublin on the 30th of August, so I expect a big crowd at that. For me, I hope, anyways. And if I can keep the ball rolling with good wins, because look, if I don't get myself in good shape and if I don't perform properly, who's going to want to watch me? I wouldn't want to watch me.
No,
So
this is it. Yeah.
I'm not going to bullshit myself and say, oh, my friends love me, they'll support me either way. I don't want them to if I'm not going to perform properly. I'd rather people be honest with me and say, look, Luke, that wasn't a good watch there.
It's got to
Like,
be a two-way thing, hasn't it?
yeah, if they're going to be doing me the absolute honor of coming to support me, I have to make it worthwhile for them.
Yeah. No, definitely.
And look, I put my heart on the line and I put my soul on the line for them anyways, and I'll do that in every fight, but I want to be able to put on a show for them, do you know, and have everyone saying, oh, that was a cracking night. Jesus, Luke fought great and we all had a great time and what a win. Because that's how the
When
ball keeps
and then
rolling.
it's when's the next one? When's the next one?
Literally, exactly.
And then
Whereas
it grows, doesn't it? That's yeah,
like the last few times I've come out of the ring and I've had people consoling me, you know. Um so it's not nice for them. I'm sure it's not. Do you know, so I need to be on the ball, and that's my motivation and concentration at the moment, and the discipline will stick me through it. Like I'm not just doing it for myself, I want to give my friends and family good nights out and memories to look back on. Like when I'm in my 60s, I want to be able to say to the lads, geez, that was a great night, whenever I won that, or we went here, went there. And then when I do turn pro, look at the opportunities people are getting out of nowhere.
yeah. Be
And I
ready, innit?
think absolutely. And I know it's kind of, some people might find it a bit cringy or whatever, that I use my diabetes a lot as a plug, as a way to promote myself. But you know what? Why not? I'm one of only a few on the planet. I'm going to push it and I'm going to use it as a marketing tool. I have a story, and so do the other diabetic boxers out there and any other boxers that are suffering. You have Ben Whitaker, his story with the ADHD. They
Yeah.
use that on Sky Sports as a plug. Why couldn't they use that on Sky Sports about me with my diabetes and have a or the
I,
zone or whoever?
we see it
You
with a
know,
lot of people. You know,
exactly.
I think prime example, Josh Padley. You know,
Yeah, look at that.
he's gone from the building site to being a
Unbelievable.
professional boxer,
Yeah,
and that's the story, and people love the story. It's the
people
like the
love a
rags to
narrative.
riches,
Yeah,
you know
people
the story, isn't it? So
people
the guy
love
that
a
took a chance,
narrative. Now look,
yeah,
it also helps that Josh Padley is a very good boxer.
yeah, oh, yeah,
He's he can walk the walk, but you know what, so can I. And once I get myself in shape, I'll show that. And I've got a good narrative to go with it. And I've got amazing friends and family both in the UK and Ireland who I'm sure will support me
yeah,
on my journey. So when I can't tell you, this is a very long-winded answer. But I'll make sure when I'm doing it, it'll be at the right time.
yeah. No, 100%, mate. Well, you'll always have my support. You know that, Luke.
I appreciate
We've
that.
known each other for it's 4 years now,
Yeah,
and
it's wild.
it's crazy, mate. It's crazy,
Best
but
best 4 years of your life.
oh, mate, I've loved every second of it. But no, honestly, it's an absolute pleasure having you on. And I know times have been tough. We've had emotional chats.
Yeah,
We've
yeah,
had all sorts from both directions. You know, both of us.
absolutely. Yeah, look,
And
I know it's uncut, but there's some things obviously I'm not going to talk about on camera, and there's certain bits and bobs that's been going on with myself. But yeah, look, I'd be as open and as candid as can be about a lot of things. Like I'm not afraid to say I've struggled with. Mental health gets thrown around a lot, but just struggled with my emotions and struggled with how things have been at times.
Yeah,
But there's always, there's always people to chat to. There's always sport is a great outlet. I'm not saying go and get punched in the face for therapy, but it works. And
it works for Luke.
but
Find your thing, basically. Find your
absolutely,
thing.
yeah, yeah, and talk to your mates. Talk to your parents. Talk to your fucking cat or dog. It doesn't matter. Like
Yeah,
at the end of
don't
the day,
punch your cat or dog. We want to make that
talk to
clear.
them. Yeah,
Talk to them.
but no, like whatever helps. Whatever helps. That's a positive outlet. Because
Yeah,
there's a lot of negative outlets, and like I say, my negative outlet is junk food.
yeah,
Eating too much of the wrong thing. And it look where it's got me. In a situation where I have to work extremely hard and deprive myself of these things to get fit and healthy again. But that's what I'm doing.
yeah.
And
That's what
I
you
will
got to
try
do.
and yeah, look, it's not just for boxing either. Like, all right, everyone who knows me knows boxing is my obsession. But if I want to live a long and healthy life, I've got to do it too. Do you know? So I want to be an advocate for that, keeping healthy. Like I look at the other diabetic boxers, especially the two pros, Rashid Johnson and Muhammad Ali. They're in amazing shape constantly. And I look at myself then and I'm like, oh, what am I doing wrong here? But I know what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I
This
could
is it.
I could I could compare myself to them and feel sorry for myself, or I could look at them as inspiration. And that's what I do. Like the two of them inspire me absolutely greatly. Like Rashid Johnson's fighting soon. He's fighting this month, I think the 31st of May in Philadelphia. And Muhammad Ali will be out again soon. He boxes on a lot of Pat Barrett's Black Flash promotions.
Yeah,
Two amazing guys. And two lovely men. Like Muhammad actually rang me after my last fight to see how I was. And amazing. He didn't have to do that. So it's a great community, and any of us would be around to support and give advice and whatever to anyone who is looking to do boxing with diabetes. And like I say, I've inspired someone in my own country to do it.
well, and that's what I
And
was
I
going to say. At the end of the day, you're already inspiring without realizing.
yeah,
It's
look,
not done with an intention. If you show that you're living the best that you can possibly do,
mhm.
and giving it your best shot, you inspire others because you're being yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Look, you,
And
you
that
know me.
that's the
There's no
beauty of
there's
it.
no there's no airs and graces with me. I am who I am, and that's it. Like I'm not putting on a personality when I'm talking to you on camera versus off camera. And if I can inspire, like I said it in my very first interview I did in 2016 with Rob Howe, who is a type 1 diabetic. He used to play in the NBA in America, and he worked with USA Boxing, but he wasn't a boxer himself. But that's how we got in touch.
Yeah,
And I said to him back then in 2016, if I can inspire just one person, I'd be delighted. And I've done that now. And maybe there's other people I've inspired that haven't got in touch with me. But like I know for a fact I've done that now for at least one person. And all I want to do is spread awareness and, inspire others too. Like I'm keeping on going. It's the ball
yeah,
doesn't stop here. So whether I'm still fighting in 10 years' time, in 15 years' time, hopefully not in my 40s, but you know what I mean? Like if I'm still inspiring people then, I'd be absolutely delighted. And after my boxing career is over, I'd love to go into punditry, into commentary. I was really happy with the job I did a few weeks ago, and everyone else seemed to be happy with it as well. So, my sport, I think, could be providing for me for a long time, and I
mhm,
want to give back now, and give back to the sport, give back to my loved ones and supporters. I'm not going to say fans; they're supporters, and any strangers who do come across me and like what they see and are inspired by that, amazing.
yeah. No, 100%, mate. Well, that's that's all I will say. You are you are inspiring, Luke. You're a top bloke. You've always been good to me.
Thank you.
You've always been supportive of whatever I've done, and other people,
Absolutely, and
and
always will be.
you've always been a real pick me up. So I really appreciate it. And before you go, just a quick one: Usyk Dubois at Wembley. We're going to see it again.
Yeah.
What are you going? We've obviously had a disagreement about this fight previously anyway, because of a certain shot. But what are we thinking for the rematch here? We've
I
got
think
Usyk, who is obviously even more heavyweight style now. Let's think
true.
further down the
Yeah,
journey.
he's settled
We've got
into
a
the.
different Dubois down the line now. So it's going to be an intriguing one.
Yeah, I think we're going to get the same outcome. I think Usyk will stop him again. I love
He's
Usyk.
unreal. He's
I've been a big
unreal.
Usyk fan since I first seen him in the Olympics in
Yeah,
2012.
yeah. You and me
He's
both.
he's fantastic. The shot was low. If anyone wants to know my opinion on that, I think it was low. It's not
That's
about
a
where the
whole.
shot.
That's a whole nother
I'm opening
episode.
up a can of worms here.
I'm
Look,
with you. I'm
it's
with
not
you.
about it's not about where the shot finishes. It's about where it starts. And that uppercut started in the groin. So look, it is what it is. Dubois can disagree with me if he wants. I'm not going to argue to his face. Um,
Yeah, good move. Good move.
but
Stay away from heavyweight.
Jesus, I like my neck how it is.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, look, I think I like Dubois. He's what he's done since the defeat to Usyk
Yeah,
has been unbelievable. And
yeah,
again, that's
brilliant.
an inspirational thing, the way he's picked himself up and dusted himself off, and 3 amazing victories. But I just think he's biting off more than he can chew here with Usyk. Usyk's going to probably retire undefeated, I think.
I think the
And
way he holds himself as a champion,
absolutely, yeah,
Usyk is just what you expect from a champion, a role
he is
model,
absolutely.
a top of the world guy. If you're entering the sport, Usyk's the guy you look at. And that's how I look at
Yeah,
it.
look,
It's
if you're gonna yeah
incredible
if
on
you're gonna
every
pick
level.
if your sons wanted to say, Dad, who should I look up to in boxing? He's one of the first men you'd pick
That's the only man I think
after
at the moment.
after me.
I,
But
sorry, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I jumped the gun on that one. Sorry.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
But yeah, no, look, he's amazing, and I think he's got the fire in his belly too for this one. I think.
yeah, he wants it.
Um,
He
like he
wants it.
he he wants to hurt Dubois. I think like with AJ and with Fury, I don't think he took it too personally. But with the stuff that's been going on in the build up to this, I think Usyk has a bee in his bonnet with Dubois. I think we're going to see a different side to him, and I wouldn't like to get on the wrong side of Usyk.
No,
So good luck to Dubois on the night, but I can only see a Usyk victory. Don't get me wrong. There's always a puncher's chance. It's heavyweight boxing. Anything can happen. But
exactly.
I think Usyk's going to stop him again. That's my prediction.
Well, there we have it. Luke, go to the cinema before you upset the other half, and
Absolutely.
that'll be a
That's
fight you
another
will not
that's
win.
another fight I won't win. Yeah.
You've learned, wait, you've learned.
Absolutely.
But honestly, thank you very much for coming on. As
No
always, we'll
worries.
catch
Cheers
up
for the
again
invite.
soon. And
Absolutely.
yeah, take care, mate. Enjoy your film.
Thank you.
See you, mate.